Privyet and welcome everyone. You're watching Slavic News Channel. In this video, we'll discuss the most significant events happening in Ukraine on the 20th of May, 2024. First, let's talk about the Kharkiv direction, where according to our information, the Russians continue their offensive operations. Currently, there are very heavy clashes in the area of Lipsy. The Ukrainians managed to concentrate a significant number of forces. We have updates about the redeployment of the 92nd Assault Brigade and the 13th Brigade of Operational Assignment in Kharkiv. We know that the 40th Mechanized Brigade is also involved. So this concentration of forces has allowed the Ukrainians to stabilize the line of combat contact and slow down the Russian movements. The Ukrainians understand that if the Russians take control of Lipsy and force them to fall back, the Russian artillery will be able to attack any position within Kharkiv itself. Moving to Vovchansk, we have many updates. According to our information, the Russians are about to start an offensive operation toward the village of Prilipka. For this purpose, the Russians plan to cross the Seversky Donetsk River and establish a foothold on the Ukrainian side of the area. Yesterday, we discussed fire anomalies, and if you remember, one of these anomalies occurred between Prilipka and Sinelnikovo. This area includes the main supply road the Ukrainians could use to send forces from Sinelnikovo to Prilipka. In Vovchansk, we adjusted the map based on new geolocation data confirming the Russian presence in the northeastern part of Vovchansk. This video shows Russian soldiers who landed in the area, occupying houses and other positions. So we have adjusted the map accordingly. In the past few days, we stopped receiving updates from the central and southern parts of Volchansk. This suggests that this area is also likely under Russian control, and we expect further confirmation soon. Additionally, sources reported that the Russians have crossed the Vovchansk River near the railway station, and heavy clashes are ongoing in this area. This information has been corroborated by various mappers, including the neutral mapper Syriac. Summarizing, it is likely this territory is now a gray zone with ongoing heavy clashes. Moving further south to the Kupinsk area, we have significant updates, particularly from the village of Berestov. According to our information, the Russians have improved their positions, causing the Ukrainians to almost entirely abandon the area and retreat to a fortification belt. Different sources, including pro-Russian mappers, reported that the Russians have entered the village of Masarevka. They have established a strong foothold, forcing the Ukrainians to fall back. This position is strategic because the river Zhirobets to the west makes it difficult for the Ukrainians to counterattack. With a stronghold in Masozharevka, the Russians will likely attempt to improve their positions to the north and south. They aim to storm Stolmakovka from the south, and with the battle for Berestov nearly finished, they will likely storm Stolmakovka from the north as well. The Russians also have the option to attack from the east. It seems only a matter of time before Stolmakovka falls. Moving forward to the south, we have significant updates from Chasov Yar. Over the past 24 hours, the Russians have conducted massive assault operations from different directions. The Ukrainian sources published videos of Russian attacks mainly from the eastern and southern directions. However, there have been no updates on the results of Russian attacks from the north. President Zelensky reported that the Russian attacks were repelled and the Russians suffered significant losses, including up to 21 armored vehicles. According to the Ukrainians, they achieved significant results, and by May 19th, no Russians remained in eastern Chasov Yar. The attack began on the evening of May 17th, and by the 19th, after 2 days of clashes, the Russians were forced to retreat. We have geolocation data confirming the Russians entered eastern Chasov Yar. Initially, the Russians attacked from the new cemetery through the Popovo forest, capturing several buildings. They then deployed infantry and armored vehicles, which later left Chasov Yar. Hours later, the Ukrainians published another video of a southern attack. The Russians advanced through the Stupki Golubkovki forest and the German forest, using significant numbers of armored vehicles and personnel carriers. Despite Ukrainian efforts to slow them with artillery and drones, the Russians managed to break through the defense belt and enter Chasov Yar from the south, capturing several buildings. Heavy artillery preparation preceded these attacks. The Russians captured numerous buildings and territories. Later, the Ukrainians used FPV drone strikes. This footage shows a Russian personnel carrier entering the central part of eastern Chasov Yar, landing infantry to capture buildings. These attacks also took place on May 17th. We do not know if the Russians captured eastern Chasov Yar, as we have conflicting Russian videos and official statements from Ukrainian authorities. Given the available information, it is prudent to consider the area a gray zone until more updates, geolocations, or confirmations are available. The clashes for eastern Chasov Yar were intense, with significant losses on both sides. Both Russians and Ukrainians sent substantial reinforcements to maintain control. Moving further, we have updates from other directions, particularly the Krasnogorovka area. The Russians are improving their positions and developing their foothold around current locations. Reports indicate that the Russians have captured eastern Krasnogorovka, closing in on the main Ukrainian supply and support roads in the area. The Russians also destroyed a key bridge that the Ukrainians used for redeploying forces and supplies, and potentially for evacuation. Additionally, several Ukrainian artillery systems behind Krasnogorovka were destroyed in counter-artillery duels. The situation is dire for the Ukrainians, who are likely to lose this stronghold soon. The battle for Krasnogorovka appears to be nearing its end. The Russians continue to advance toward Kostiantynivka. Reports from Cyrillic sources confirm control over key areas in this stronghold. The distance between Russian positions and the main supply road from Kostiantynivka to Ugledar is now less than 2.8 kilometers. If the Russians gain control over this road, it could signal the beginning of the end for Ukrainian positions in Kostiantynivka and Ugledar. Heavy clashes continue in the southern part, particularly around farms. Videos confirm that parts of Rozoyansk remain under Ukrainian control. This video shows Ukrainian reinforcements arriving, but their personnel carrier was quickly destroyed. The Ukrainians were fortunate to abandon the vehicle in time. However, the Russians detected this rotation and launched drone and helicopter attacks to clear the area. This footage shows a Russian drone approaching and targeting Ukrainian vehicles used for the rotation. The battle for southern Rozoyansk continues, with Ukrainians showing strong resistance. This town remains a critical point for Ukrainian defenses, and they are determined not to give it up easily. In the Kherson direction, Ukrainian forces have been using JDAM bombs and other weaponry for their attacks. This video shows a significant explosion at Russian positions near Holopristan. Recently, the Russians re-established control over the islands, prompting Ukrainian attacks on their concentrations of forces. The battle for Kherson continues. Last night, the Ukrainians conducted another massive missile strike on Berdyansk, likely using Storm Shadow missiles. They targeted Russian headquarters and depots. Videos from the scene show large fires and significant destruction. The Ukrainians aim to undermine Russian supply lines in the region. As we conclude this update, it is clear that the situation on the ground remains highly fluid and dynamic. Both sides are experiencing heavy losses, and the intensity of the battles shows no sign of decreasing. We will continue to monitor the situation closely and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for today's update. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates from Slavic News Channel. Have a good day. Slavic News Channel condemns any violence in Ukraine or globally.